Hi, I'm Ben. We're going to inspect this home. It's a modern home built out of concrete, and it's only a few years old, but it has major problems. We have a landslide in the back causing structural defects and big cracks and movement. We have a major roof leak. We've got a plumbing leak from a bathroom shower. We've got electrical problems. The pool is leaking water. So even though the home is relatively young and built and designed by an architect, every home should be inspected. Why? Because we want to keep our homes in good shape, safe, functioning, and healthy. And that starts with knowing what's going on in the home. Whether it's new or old, every home should be inspected by a neutral third-party inspector, a home inspector in your area. So go to InterNACHI.org and look for a home inspector. You want to know what the problems are in your home when they're small so you can fix them yourselves. So let's go inspect this home. Oh, and we're going to use a drone to inspect the roof. It's going to be a lot of fun. So follow me. Let's do a home inspection on this home. The first thing I inspect when conducting a home inspection is the roof. And then we go to the exterior, and then the inside. HVAC, foundation, electrical, plumbing, interior, and we'll end up in the kitchen. So first, let's take a look at this roof. And it's a flat roof, so we'll have to get access. If the roof is not accessible, I can't inspect it, but usually I can. I can get up on the roof with tall ladders, and if I can't, I'll use my drone. So we're on the roof, and it's a flat roof, and there's an upper roof, which we'll get to later, and there's a lower roof made up of different sections, each with their own drainage system. So right here we have a drainage system, so we'll follow that, see where that leads. The material that I'm looking at, so EPDM, rubberized roofing material that's sealed and it's waterproof. A lot of roofs are shingled, where that shingled roof is sloped and it's not waterproof, it's water resistant. But this isn't sloped. This is essentially a flat roof with a slight slope toward each drain. So it has to be a waterproof material. This roof covering material is sealed really well at the edges and at the flashing areas. And the seams must be tight all along. And this roof is the same material, but it's covered with the stone. Let's take a look, see what's underneath. And they have some drainage system material here, a piece of plastic, hard plastic, to protect the roof. But just to make sure, I like to use my hand and make sure that this material that I see over the parapet walls is the same material that's on the roof. And it is. And the drainage piece of plastic that they have is often used to simply protect the roofing materials. And it's difficult to see everywhere. So in just some areas, I'll see that this is the actual roof covering material without that protective layer. And here's the drainage. So this is a drainage system here. It's removable. So we'll move some of the stones. And there's the drainage pipe there. Not much to comment on, other than how well it's installed and sealed. So we'll take a look below, see if we have any issues there, and then we'll put this The primary purpose of the stones is to protect the roofing material from the sun and the weather. And these are important seams to pay attention to. So we'll check all of the seams, make sure they're all tight and sealed well. I see a wrinkle here. I'm not too concerned about it. And this is a vent, likely from the kitchen, cooking area. And we'll take a look at the flashing. Everything needs to be flashed and overlapped properly so that it is diverting water away. And all of this looks really good so far. And where the exterior wall meets the roofing material, we have metal flashing that's overlapping so that the water runs off and drips. A little concerned about the fastening here and there. We don't want rust or corrosion developing. And here's where two pieces are seamed and overlapped with a piece of flashing. That's good. Let's take a look at the front of the house. And how it's overlapped on the top of the wall. And the seam is nice and tight, and there's flashing that goes underneath and a drip edge. Here's where the glass guard is. Nice and tight, sealed well. The masonry is installed well, and it's dripped. A bit of an edge there with the parging of the concrete and metal flashing, and even sealant where there may be an opening at the edge. The top edge is hit with some sealant. And these planter containers, they're just resting right on top of the roof material. This one's resting on some wood. That's fine. Now the tree is in contact with the roofing material. And we don't want this because it could damage the roof. Also, it introduces a pathway for ants or bugs to crawl up on the house. We want to trim this away. So far, the roof is looking good. While inspecting the roof, I'm looking at the exterior. The house is made out of concrete with a thick coating, a parging of cement on the exterior. What I look for are cracks, such as that one. There's a crack going along the bottom of this wall. Take a closer look. Some material is missing. Some material is loose. I like to use my knuckles to see if there's a hollow sound, and to look for any large openings that could indicate a major structural settlement or movement. And I do see one. So there's a large crack there, as you can see. Goes that way and down. Goes behind the unit. And it meets up with this long horizontal crack here. This crack goes all the way across the rear wall of the house. And there's signs of movement. And the crack is opened and it is separated, and some of it is loose. So in the least, it needs repair. And it may have been repaired before in the past. I can see some extra coating here, as if this wall was repaired before. It almost looks like a different kind of pattern and color on this side, as if this wall was patched before. But it's this crack that's a concern, because it's so large and open and long. You can see the crack is open here at this corner where there's a change in the structure of the wall, where this wall meets this wall. And there's a hairline crack that goes all the way through here. So let's concentrate on this area here and see if we have any other indications of movement. 2 heat pump units. Each one is secured to the wall. Each one is running right now. Multiple zones. This line can be insulated. There's the manufacturing label. Sounds like it's operating well. There's the manufacturing label of this one with the refrigerant lines, which are worn out. The fins are dirty. They should be cleaned. So the units are functioning. We'll take a look at the temperature differences on the inside, but the insulation around the lines need to be repaired and the fins need to be cleaned. Here's a third unit. You can see the refrigerant lines need to be insulated, and the lines pass through a conduit that go down into the air handler. It's on a good base that won't affect the roofing material. Again, the fins should be cleaned. It hasn't been serviced and cleaned recently. And there's the manufacturing label. Let's use our drone to inspect the roof. So when I fly a drone, I'm not going to go too high, just for safety reasons. And if I go close to the roof, then I can see things a lot better. So what I'm going to do is fly the perimeter, fly around all the fields, and look at everything that is on the roof or goes through the roof. For example, the skylights. Take a look at the skylights. Look at the glass or the plastic bubbles, the materials. I'm looking at the flashing and the fastening. I'm also looking for puddles on the roofing material itself. So this is an EPDM rubber waterproof material with drains. I'm going to take a look at the drain holes. It looks in great shape. I don't see any problems with the roofing material. There are no water puddles or standing water puddles. The seams look sealed and overlapped and tight, and the edges of the roof look good. And there's the other skylight. There are two skylights. Taking a look at the condition of that skylight as well. It's in good shape. Again, looking at the material itself, I don't want to see any damage. I don't want to see dirt and debris built up. We want to imagine a rainstorm landing on this waterproof roofing material and then draining off into the little drains in the corners of the flat roof. And just another pass looking for anything that's abnormal or bad installation or previous roof repairs that may indicate any kind of problems in the past. But this roof looks good, so I'm gonna pass over a little bit more and then return home. And I inspected the roof safely from the ground without leaving the ground. And that's one way to inspect a roof on every home or building. Every roof should be inspected by a certified home inspector, not by a roofing contractor who may want to sell you something, but by an unbiased, trusted, third-party, neutral inspector who just wants to give you the information you need to make smart decisions about your house. And here's one exterior patio with these large tile stones that are floating above a material that allows the water to drain out. And these guards, double pane glass guards, installed inside the system here. And I'm looking for damage, cracks, and I like to see some etching that indicates this is safety glass, and I don't see that. And then where the stone patio meets the house, we want to make sure that it's sealed well where the exterior wall meets the patio and where the wood exterior covering meets the patio. And you can see that better at this one area. Ideally, we want to see metal flashing, and we do. There's the flashing there. It's very difficult to see, but I see it's installed. And then there's the drainage plane in here below the tile. And then the exterior looks in good shape. Above, small crack there that could be patched up. Another small crack. We'll take a look at the other roofs. Under the tile, we can see that there's a large drainage plane, and each tile has its own support. So let's take a look at the exterior. There's a pool. We'll take a look at that as well. So we're going to take a look at the exterior patios like we were from the roof, and we'll take a look at the exterior walls as well. And right here, I noticed efflorescence. Right there. So that's coming from the roof. I see some other watermarks as well. There's some watermarks there. And then if we go around the exterior of this pole, load-bearing post for the roof and structure above, there's also some watermarks and efflorescence as well. And on this side, a lot of surface cracking, as you can see, and more water staining and efflorescence. So what is efflorescence? Well, that's an indication of water movement through masonry, the concrete, the stone. And you don't want that. So whenever you see efflorescence or salt deposits left behind after water migrates through the masonry, that's an indication of something that could be wrong. And here, it's my concern because at that area up here is the roof. So maybe the roof isn't draining properly and it's finding its way through cracks. And concrete has naturally just cracking, and it's porous. And there's these micro fissures in cracks and masonry and stone that allow water to capillate through capillary action, move through the stone, the masonry, the concrete. And we just don't want water to migrate like that. And when you see salt deposits left behind, that's osmosis. There's salt in everything, in dirt and concrete. And as the water moves and migrates through, it brings that salt along with it to the surface of the exterior here. And then the water evaporates and leaves the salt behind. The issue is, as the salt gets worse, accumulates more, when there's a constant water supply, then pressure is built up because of osmosis. And the PSI, pounds per square inch, on the exterior of the concrete or the masonry or the stone exceeds its own strength. So it could be over 5,000 PSI at the exterior, where there's an enormous amount of pressure, water migrating through capillary action, osmosis, salt, pressure, and on the surface it cracks, or it could even explode and deteriorate completely. So we want to fix these water problems that indicate osmosis, salt, water movement, capillary action before we have major structural problems. So let's take a look on the top and see if there's any indications of water problems up there. But down here, we have a problem. And it's on this beam here. And now is the time to get an inspection before big problems start to arise. You want to catch problems when they're small so you can fix them. So every home, even a home modern like this, relatively young, should be inspected by an inspector to make sure everything is safe, functioning, and healthy, so that you can catch problems when they're small and fix them. Here's more cracking here along this beam. Just want to make sure everything is in good shape. Now that we've seen cracking and water movement, we want to make sure to look at other surfaces of the exterior. And I think, again, this has been parged recently and patched. But here's that water problem there. And this is the roof that we were on. We're walking on this roof up here. So I want to take another look there. We want to go back up on the roof and see if there are any problems that we can see from above. The wood exterior siding, looking for any kind of problems with the installation or the fastening or wood rot. And the wood on the decking of the pool, it looks in good shape. I like to look at the fastening. Make sure they're stainless steel. They're not rusting. Look at the structure if I can. These are large beams holding up these planks. And then there's a drainage system below. There's the pool drainage system for the infinity edge. Just trying to see below the deck. Can't see everything. Just taking a look around. And then the exterior itself. We want the grading to slope away from the house. About 6 inches down for the first 10 feet. So it should slope away. That's so that water gets away from the foundation and it doesn't go back into the house. And every hard surface should have a slight slope, maybe 2% slope away. And then this exterior slab has deteriorated a bit, and it should be repaired. That's why I like to use my hands. This actually feels hollow, like I could pick this up. That's solid. That's hollow. So these grout lines, I don't like very much. We should not have open grout lines. We don't want that. The ants like it, but what we want is a impervious surface, something that water cannot go through, and sloped. And the exterior walls, the retaining walls, enjoying inspecting these, built really well with these little pieces in between. I don't see any water coming through the retaining walls, and they're so thick. Retaining walls hold the dirt from falling in, and they also hold back the water. So whenever I see a house that's built into the wall, or into the dirt, or into a hillside, that's the roof we were at up there. So this is my concern now. How is the grading around this house in the back? Well, everything is sloping towards the house. Ideally, we wouldn't have this. We'd have some kind of separation between the hillside and the house. And I think there was at one time. And they have this waterproofing system. This is a EPDM. This is a rubber membrane right here for waterproofing, not damp proofing. That's watertight. But I don't see a protective barrier, a drainage plane, like we saw on the roof. Whoop. Looks like we put materials right up against the house, like landscaping materials right up against the house. That's not a good idea. We want to keep things away from the foundation. So I'm concerned that water drains down here and goes up against the house. And I think some things of the hillside have actually fallen. So there's a chunk of the hillside that I can see. This large piece right here has actually slid down and fallen, and it's up against the house. So if you can see that, this part of the hillside has slid down and has fallen up against the house. We don't want to damage the waterproofing material. And we have a lot of landscaping and rocks and debris up against what is a delicate, relatively delicate material. Like that. We don't want this up against this material because this will settle and tear the material. And we have a water leak there at the gardening hose. It's a drip hose, but somebody put duct tape around there, and that's just wasting a lot of water. Well, anyways, here's the roof that we were on before. There's the concern about the landscaping material on the hillside up against the waterproofing material and damaging it. And right there is where that efflorescence on the exterior was observed. So we want to take a look at that area there to see if there are any water problems. And what a view. So above us is the flat roof. We have at least 2 or 3 drainage ports, and I don't see any water marks below the roof. And I'm not sure where those roof drains discharge to. So maybe it goes across and then down the wall. In this room, there's the air handler with the condenser unit on the roof. And we have some controls at the control panel, and we also have a thermostat, a remote control. We don't want any open places here where someone can stick their finger in and get electrocuted. All the breakers are on. We have a double pole breaker, but no labeling. So each breaker should be identified. When inspecting a room, it's floors, walls, and ceiling. And since there's a flat roof, checking the ceiling for watermarks on the edges and the corners, wherever there's a roof penetration, is part of the process. And then looking at the bottom of the wall, where the door is, where the floor meets the wall, and where the exterior door is. Let's now inspect the pool. And I use InterNACHI's pool inspection checklist. And that helps me go through the process of inspecting any pool of any size, of any type, residential and commercial. And basically, the first thing that I look at is the water quality and the water level. It should be near the top edge, and it should be interacting with the scuppers or the intakes so that the water surface is filtered well. Well, this is an infinity pool. You can see a good shot there, nice view, and it spills over. So let's take a look at that. And during the pool inspection, I look at the ports. Water coming in and water going back to the pump. And that is a safety hazard. That is not a safe drain. Somebody could get stuck on that and cause serious injury. So that's a safety hazard there. Now I noticed that the concrete itself is having some issues. You can see the iron coming through the foundation wall this wall here is having problems with the reinforcement. So those areas there are going to continue to crack and bleed through until it's repaired properly. Taking a look on this side, you can see the damage being caused by the reinforcement bleeding through the concrete wall of the pool. So this wall over here needs repair. And it looks like in the past the floor has been repaired and patched up. So it's that wall there that we're concerned with. Here's the infinity pool, and it spills over into a large trough. And it goes down through that area there. So we'll see what's inside. I believe a lot of the equipment and pumping is going to be under the deck, and we won't be able to see much of it. Here is a heat pump unit to warm the water in certain seasons. So they have that running into the trough there. But right here, I'm going to pay attention to the structural components of the pool and to make sure we don't have any problems. Right now, everything is sloped away, so that's good. It's not sliding away. Little footer there could be patched up. Maybe it was patched up. We don't want this retaining wall to slide. And it looks like we have some cracking going on with some efflorescence being built up. And that is an indication that there's some pressure right there. It's going to start to pop off like it's doing right now. Let's see if there's any other indications. I don't see any water coming out on this side. That's good. And so here we have more efflorescence through the crack, and that's salt being left behind when the water is transferred through the material. It picks up the salt through capillary action. The water moves through concrete and stone and masonry and picks up the salt. And through osmosis, this salt is built up on the surface here. And when the PSI pressure on the surface is really high, it starts to crack and spall, and you have structural problems, just like up there. So you have those watermarks there, and that watermark there. That's efflorescence, and the same kind of problem. It's an indication of a repair that's needed before it gets really bad. So every pool structure should be inspected by a trained, certified home inspector who can give you the information you need to make smart decisions. And here is more efflorescence coming through a crack. Let's see if we can see what's inside there. So to give you an idea, there's that infinity pool drainage, and it just goes right into that return there. So there must be plumbing all along there that we can't yet see or easily see. Although I think there's a pump right over there. Let's take a look at that. All right, let's take a look at where all this water goes. So it's in here. And it drains back. So you can see the pipes going into a compartment This is under the deck, and there's no access to it. It's like a large pool of water underneath the deck, but there's no access to that pipe room. And it's concrete above, concrete below. So it's right over there somewhere, and there's no access to it from above. Well, we do have one access area, and it's right here. So let's open up this pool access and see what's inside. Now this seems like an easier way to access the pool components, the pipes, the valves, and the pumps. And here's the heat pump that can heat up the water. Manufacturing label. The unit itself needs to be cleaned out a little bit, and it has been serviced in over a year. And where the pool equipment here is, under the shower, we have some masonry cracking, simply because of all the water. So, don't think it's settlement, it's really just water penetration and cracking. And we have a shower next to the pool, and it's functional, although it drains right into the pool access area. Different countries have different plumbing codes, and in this country, France, they are permitted to have sewage plumbing access areas. These squares are actual lids on top of junction points where the sewer water, anything from a toilet or a bathroom sink or a shower, drains into here and then takes a turn and also combines with the others. There are problems with these. There's clogging and poor drainage, and they need to be cleaned out and serviced. We also recommend a sewer scope, where you put a camera down all sewer lines to make sure that the sewer lines are clear and functioning properly. So let's take a look at one of them, and you can see that needs to be cleaned out. And here's the hot tub and the access panel, and there's the motor. And other components. We're looking for water leaks, damage, rust, corrosion, proper installation, structural support, and also maintenance. You want to make sure that this has been maintained. And also the electrical. You want that motor in the unit itself to be properly grounded and bonded. The unit itself is on. There's a small tear in the padding. Looks good. Enjoy checking out the retaining walls. As a home inspector, it's in the standards of practice for important reasons. We don't want any structure to be sliding off of a hillside. So I want to take a look at how this hillside is built and supported, and are there any indications of erosion or slipping or problems where this is affecting the structure. So we have problems in the back where the hillside has fallen against the back of the house. Now I want to take a look at the front hillside to see if there's anything going on in the front. Let's take a look. And the bocce ball area is in the front, and they used large stones, and that all looks really good. Just looking for movement of those stones. I'm looking for slippage or signs that the ground has slid. Looks like there were stairs here going up, and they've removed them. We're walking our way to the pool area. And we already inspected the pool. So, this property looks in good shape. Let's take a quick look at that street down there and this retaining wall below us. So there's the driveway. Driveway has a retaining wall. We'll take a look at the driveway in just a moment. I can see a concrete footing underneath the stone wall, and this concrete footing is exposed now, so I can see the thickness and the size of the footing, and I can see it going up all the way. There's the fire hydrant and the main electric and water. There's the common water shut off and the main electric below the house and the retaining wall. I don't see any problems with the retaining wall or the ground below the house. I like to see these drainage holes to relieve water pressure from behind the retaining wall that's made out of poured concrete. So here's the street coming up, and the driveway itself is very steep. How do we get to measure the slope? Well, let's use a measuring app that I have, and let's go over here to measure the retaining wall. Can you see it over there? Let's use this as our guide. All right, let's open up the measuring app and let's take a look at the slope of the driveway. And what we can use is the retaining wall, which runs along parallel with the slope of the driveway. And let's take a look at that. And that is at about 20, 19, 20, 21, about 20 degrees slope for the driveway. That is a very steep driveway. Steep driveway. Very steep. So, I'm not sure how to fix it, but that's not my primary job. My primary job is to educate my clients as to the condition of the house. And a very steep slope driveway is probably very good information for my client to understand. If this is in winter, well, there's not even a retaining wall at the end of that driveway across the street. All right, let's keep inspecting. All exterior receptacles need GFCI protection like this one. So we need ground fault circuit interrupter protection at all exterior receptacles, and we don't have any. So when I walk around and take a look at the electrical panel, all exterior receptacles, anything you can plug a cord into, needs a safety feature called GFCI, ground fault circuit interrupter protection. It prevents people from getting shocked. Okay, so remember that water problem we had with the column and a lot of efflorescence around the column? Well, now I'm above it, which is above the pool. So below me is a column with a lot of efflorescence, signs of water coming through the masonry concrete and causing problems, maybe causing cracks because of osmosis, so that salt and that pressure pushing on the material itself. The PSI that's built up because of osmosis and capillary action and water movement through concrete, that PSI at the surface is stronger than the concrete itself, so it can literally explode, crack, spall the concrete. Now, what is causing the problem? Water. That's why every homeowner should understand water management. How do you understand water management? You just need to learn it. So hire your home inspector to teach you about how to manage water around the house. And right here we see indications of water that could go into the masonry. So at this area here, above that column with the efflorescence and the cracking, we have points where water can penetrate into the concrete. So you can see some open cracks here on this side, open cracks on the side, open cracks at the top Yep, open cracks there at the corner. Let's take a look on the other side. Open cracks here. Now, how about roof water? Well, looks like this was sealed. It has flashing, although that's rusted there. Maybe this area is not retaining water. Oh, it looks like it has a patch on it. It has a patch of some kind. I'm gonna stop my inspection right here because someone knows what's going on. Looks like maybe here we have a water problem with the roofing material. It has leaked, and someone came in and tried to put like a garbage bag to cover it, a piece of plastic there. So what we need is a professional roofer to further investigate and evaluate here. And also, the drip edge might not be working very well. This capping here along this part of the concrete wall, the beam going across, you can see the crack and efflorescence there. Over time, this will damage the concrete. If left go, this concrete is going to further crack and spall and fall apart. So this is the source of the problem. And here we go here on this side too. Maybe this is just a piece of fabric that's used to protect the material, but it's also an inspection restriction. And we know that there's a roof leak here. It could be coming from the concrete itself, maybe from the roofing material. We know there's a roof leak there. Could be coming through the roofing material, the flashing, the fastener, the cracking. We know we have indications of cracks and water. That efflorescence is an indication, the efflorescence is always an indication of cracking and water penetration. Efflorescence is always an indicator. It indicates potential structural problems caused by water. Water is moving through material that shouldn't. We want to keep the water out. And if it does get in, we need to let it drain out. Neither is happening here. We have structural components made out of poured concrete that are cracking and indicating continuous water movement through it. And it's only going to get worse because of osmosis and salt deposits and pressure within the surface of that exterior of the concrete. It's going to crack more and spall and explode and deteriorate. This needs to be addressed. And the cause is water. It's not being managed in this area. Okay, I'm on the exterior of the house. And do you remember on the back side of the house, there was large cracks and settlement movements potentially moving because the cracks were opened up in large areas in some areas. Well, now I'm on the side of the house, and on the side of the house, we have the same kind of cracking and indications of settlement. So this is a very large crack coming from the opening in the window, and it's open. The crack is open. So you can see the crack goes all along here to the window opening, and it cracks along here, and it cracks all along here. Another set of cracks, right? It's falling apart. It's actually hollow sound. There's a crack here. Another hollow sound. There's a small hairline diagonal crack. Big chunk in the corner that has popped off. Another big chunk in the corner that has popped off. And you can see the thickness of the parging now. There's the parging material, cement parging material coating the concrete, structural concrete underneath, just to make this appear nice. It's a parge, a coating. But this popping off could be an indication of something else going on. Water or structure. So above, I have more cracking. Crack going all around the top corner, going that way. So another indication of large open cracks, structural problems and possible settlement. So here's that porch, that balcony that we saw. It's open, it's not covered. And we see the guards made out of glass, double pane. I don't see any safety glass etching, which is required for safety. The glass itself, there are a lot of openings here. I'm not sure how it drains out. And this is a flat surface, it really should be tapered, and there's some open gaps there. And we have concrete that is in poor condition because it has spalled away. The concrete itself is now exposed, and this cement parging below the glass guards of this exterior porch. Maybe there's water getting in here and going this way and popping this cement parging out. That's all along that area, all along here. So there's damage to the concrete. And that is likely caused by water. All right, let's take a look at the bathroom. And we have a skylight in the shower. And there's the shower head. What I noticed are the little indications of water that could be coming around the skylight. So there's the shower head and the skylight. And right there, you can see that, just a slight indication of some water there that could be coming through, right? So we want to pay attention to that. Don't want water to come through a skylight. Skylights are just notorious as water leakers. So right there, I think we have some indications of some water leaks right there. There's no window that's openable, so that's a fan, an exhaust fan. The shower head is secure to the wall, and we'll turn on the fixtures. And then the floor drain is at an angle there. Let's take a look at that. Maybe it should be, oh, it's a bit loose. That's what's going on. So that needs to be fixed. And there is the slope of the drain, of the tile floor in the shower is sloped towards that drain. And I like to pound on the tiles to make sure they sound solid. And the glass should be safety glass. And that safety feature should be indicated by a laser etch labeling on the glass. And I don't see it. While I'm running water at the shower, I'll run water at the sinks. The sinks are sloped into a drainage fitting, and it's sloped into a single drain. And you can hear some gurgling, like poor ventilating. And you've got a drum trap that's not permitted by code anymore. And you can hear the sink gurgles. The water flow is good and functional, but the venting is gurgling. And all receptacles in the bathroom should be GFCI protected. And here's a towel warmer with the control and the plug. And on the opposite side, there's the control panel for the towel warmer. And the door opens and closes. And no leaks at the toilet. And here's the thermostat for the heat pump units. And the second floor bathroom has a crack in the tile. It's very hard to see, but it's open here, all along here, all along here. And I think that's significant because of what we see down in the ceiling below us. And there's a crack in the grout line here. So let's take a look at that. And below that bathroom, in the ceiling, we have a bump in the ceiling. You can see it right here. So that's likely an indication of a water leak. And the interior inspection is just checking all doors and windows and receptacles, the floors, the walls, and the ceilings. Here's the washer and the dryer. And I can't really see the connections, but I'll take a look for water leaks behind there. And here's a high efficiency hot water tank, manufacturing label, and the controls. And we have cold water in and a pressure relief there, and hot water coming out. And it's high efficient, so the inlet and exhaust are producing condensate, and we actually have a condensate leak back here. Here's the drain line for the condensate. It has a trap, but it's actually leaking around here, and this is all wet to the touch. And it's dripping on the floor below. Near the hot water tank, on the wall, we have indications of water penetration. That's efflorescence and plaster damage caused by water slowly coming in and evaporating and not really puddling on the floor, but causing some damage to the wall surface. And this is an exterior wall, and that's where all of that grading, negative grading, is allowing water to come into the house. Here's the main electric panel, main shutoff. We shouldn't have any openings, so we need a cover here. All the breakers are on, but they're not labeled. Now, here's the water leak. Now, let's listen to what the water problem sounds like. Ready? Just use your knuckles. Solid. Hollow, right? Water is underneath this parging, this coating, and it's starting to pop the parging off. Eventually, if left go, this will just pop right off, all by itself. And above, you can see some of the flaking and spalling that's happening. All right, let's now inspect the kitchen. I've got a stovetop, a cooktop, a sink. I think behind there is a refrigerator and some ovens. Let's take a look. I'm going to run water at the fixture, hot and cold water, and look for plumbing leaks. The water lines and drain lines are located under the sink, which is through the back of this drawer. So let's stick our camera in there and see what we can see. All right, so here's the bottom of the sink. That looks good with the drain going to the main drain. And that there is a cap, so that's capped off, so that's okay. And it goes to a water trap. And then that fitting there could be for the dishwasher, but they're using a standpipe instead. This could be for a garbage disposal as well. But that's not capped off. So that's not capped off. So that is an open drain pipe right there. And that needs to be capped. And that's a standpipe for the dishwasher, which is to the side of us. You've got the water supply lines and the electric, the receptacle there, and I'll take a look at that. Just looking for water leaks. So it looks good. Okay, so all of that looked good. I'd like to see a higher loop on that dishwasher drain pipe that's going into that standpipe. And here's the dishwasher here. And when I inspect the dishwasher, I like to inspect how it's installed or mounted. It shouldn't wiggle inside the cabinet. Then I like to take a look at the control panel, make sure all the buttons and displays are functioning. Then it's simply taking a look on the inside. I shouldn't see any damage or rust or corrosion or missing parts or loose parts. And the drawers should move smoothly. And the rollers should be there and move smoothly. This is nice. Has all three drawers. I look for the tines, make sure there aren't any missing pieces or damaged pieces. And then the gasket, making sure that the gasket is in good shape. We don't want any water to leak through the gasket. And then the soap dispenser. So I'll take a look, make sure everything is in good shape here. Also, the spray arms. We want them to be rotating freely, like that. And we want the holes to be clear. And if there's a heating element, sometimes it's exposed, sometimes it's internal. I'll take a look at that. This is a Bosch dishwasher, and there's a drainage area that can be maintained. I won't do that during my inspection. I'll let the homeowner do that. And then I'll close and open the door to make sure it latches well. And then I'll run a short cycle and take a look for water leaks below. And I want hot water supplied to the dishwasher. And again, I want a drain loop, a high loop, or an air gap. So we have that at that standpipe underneath the cabinet, in the sink cabinet. And this dishwasher needs to be on a ground fault, as well as some other appliances in the kitchen. So if the dishwasher doesn't turn on, we go to the main panel board and see if the breaker has tripped. And here's that electric receptacle that we saw underneath the kitchen sink. So this kitchen sink and electricity do not mix. So we want a safety feature called a GFCI. So we want GFCI protection for that receptacle, but also for the dishwasher. All dishwashers should be protected by ground fault circuit interrupter. So a GFCI feature, and also AFCI, arc fault circuit interrupter. So a dishwasher needs two electric features, GFCI protection and AFCI protection. The stove, only GFCI. This is an induction stove, and it works with electric coils underneath the glass that uses electromagnetic fields to heat up the magnets, the magnetic pots and pans that you use. And the really nice feature is that it heats up very fast without any chance of getting scalded by hot elements like a conventional electric stove or a gas cooktop. So you need special pots, ferrous magnetic pots. And to test the induction stove, well, basically it's kind of like guessing often. You have to touch the stove and find the buttons to turn it on. So an induction stove like this will have like a hidden button that turns everything on, and there it is. So that's the little button here. And this turns on. Now we have a ferrous magnetic pot. It has a magnet inside, which gets hot because of resistance of the electromagnetic waves coming from the coils underneath the glass. And we'll turn this on here, see if we can. And you can automatically hear it starting to heat up. So those copper coils, electric coils underneath the glass, uses an electromagnetic field. So the copper coils underneath the glass uses EMF fields to heat up the pot itself. The pot itself heats up, not the stove top. And while that's on, here's the oven. We can take a look at this. Make sure the door functions and that the seal is in good shape. Looking for excessive grease or damage to the drawers or the oven itself and the glass. So we'll let that run while this is heating up. And I can feel it vibrating. This is a portable microwave, so we can test that as courtesy, but it's plugged into a receptacle in the kitchen, and that requires GFCI protection. And here are the refrigerator doors. InterNACHI has a refrigerator inspection checklist that you could use to inspect these refrigerators and freezers. In the kitchen, I'm looking at the cabinetry, the shelving, and how it's installed and fastened to the wall. And there we are, and we'll turn that off. All receptacles in the kitchen should be GFCI protected. Check the floor of the kitchen, the walls, and the ceiling. And in the ceiling, we have a hood, a mechanical exhaust fan for the cooktop. Let's turn that on. And that's the inspection of this kitchen. So that was a home inspection on this house. It's basically a modern home built out of concrete and relatively young, but we found major problems. Sewage backup, a roof leak, structural problems, water damage, settlement cracks, plumbing leaks on the inside, some electrical issues. So every home should be inspected by a certified home inspector. Why? Because we want to keep our homes in good shape, safe, functioning, and healthy. And the best way to do that is to know what's going on in the home and catch those problems when they're small before they become too big to fix ourselves. So we had a lot of fun. We even flew our little drone here to inspect the roof. Hope you enjoyed the home inspection. My name is Ben Gromicko. I'm from InterNACHI. That's the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors. Get your home inspected.